Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and today, you can tell by the lights, we're going to be talking about a dark unit. We're going to be talking about Prompto. We're going to review kind of his primary abilities and kit. We're also going to talk about some of the best gear for him because he's a very interesting unit and he does have access to a lot of different types of guns, and it can be a little confusing to know which one is going to be best. Let's go ahead and dig in. Prompto has a lot of things going for him, and his kit is a little confusing. So we're going to go step by step so you guys know just exactly how to build and kind of how to program Prompto to do the maximum amount of damage. So first thing you need to know, he does have access to Sub Ranger and Sub Assassin. His primary job is going to be modified 100% by attack, 25% by dexterity, and 5% by luck. So for any of you who have been familiar with Lara Croft in the recent kind of time, or Lucia potentially as well, it's kind of the traditional gunner modification. So you are going to want to focus attack and you're going to want to focus dex in order to optimize his damage. Now, his mastery ability is going to come with HP 10% for Dark Allies, and then Dark Attack 15 for Dark Allies as well. This is going to be important when you're considering Golbez in the future, if you are maybe a free-to-play player, or maybe your Dark composition isn't as strong as you want. Could be a great way to buff your party. I would also say the kind of rest of his kit focuses on Defense Penetration 15 and Attack 10%. He is going to be a Defense Penetration gunner. He's not going to do it as good as, say, Winter Victoria, but that is going to be kind of his niche that we're going to lean into a bit here. Now, looking at his resistances are not the worst in the world. He does get 15% resistance to missile, 5% to slash, 5% to striking, and he has 5% weak to magic with no resistance against piercing. Now, this should all be fine because he is going to be mostly backline. What's interesting as a free unit that everyone has access to, though, is that he does have resistance to Doom. So that is a pretty big thing, I would say. The 50% resistance to blind can also be nice, and the 10% resistance to charm, while not perfect, is going to be one of those things that you'll want to keep in mind. He does get critical hit rate plus 26 from his board, and we're also going to be talking about the delicate balance between critical hit rate and defense penetration with Prompto, because you can kind of build him two different ways. You can go for a hybrid build, and you're really going to have to understand kind of what's going to work best for you as a player in order to maximize his damage. Taking a look at his stats, we do have HP at 2,821, nothing too impressive. Attack at 443 is going to be the 41st highest attack. Looking at that dexterity, though, because his attacks are modified by dexterity, 336, which is the 4th highest dexterity in the game. He also has an agility of 67 and a luck of 231, putting him at the 12th fastest unit in the game and the 44th highest luck unit in the game. So this is going to tell us a couple things just looking at these stats. And the first thing you need to understand is that with that high of a dexterity, that also means that his critical hit rate, paired with that plus 26 critical hit rate from his kit, is going to be very viable for damage. You are going to be using him as a critical hit rate unit, and that, of course, kind of naturally means that he is going to be paired with some of the more evasive dark units in your kit. The reason for this, of course, is going to be the global exclusive Maiden's Vision card, which does give a base dexterity of plus 35% to dark units, which will not only increase Prompto's maximum damage, because again, all of his primary main job abilities are modified by 25% of dexterity, but it's also going to almost guarantee a critical hit from Prompto landing, which of course is not the, it can be defining for a character's role if you can make that critical hit rate almost 100%, as we kind of saw with Cloud. So you're definitely going to be using him most likely in a critical hit rate capacity. Taking a look at kind of the different guns that are available to him, this is where things get a little bit tricky, I would say. We have access to Lara's dual pistols, which is also a global exclusive gun, right? And what's important about Lara's dual pistols is you do have an assault version for 180 attack, You have critical hit rate plus 12 in the main stat. You also have an additional critical hit rate 15 and critical damage plus 20. So what that critical damage plus 20 does, if you are not familiar, it does add on to the base critical hit rate modifier of 0.25. So essentially, you're going to be able to get a 0.45 modifier if you are running Lara's dual pistols on Prompto. What does that mean in layman's terms? When you see a 200% modifier attack on the enemy, that essentially means your critical damage is going to make it a 245% modifier attack. So it could be a substantial bonus to his damage. Now, there are, of course, other weapons, Razelgethi being another one, which I would say is viable for him, right? If everybody pretty much has a Razelgethi, whether you have critical or assault, both of them are going to be viable because, you know, it's the universal gun. And missile attack 15 is going to be really good. The critical hit rate of Razelgethi is probably a close second best weapon, I would say, for Prompto. Although with the amount of defense penetration that Prompto has access to, you could potentially make an argument that maybe going for the main gun that is featured with him, the Valiant, for an additional defense penetration 20 is going to be better overall, right? Maybe you go for the crit or the assault version of this. You know, you might even be able to just go for the assault version depending on the amount of crit that you actually have in your composition. But the defense penetration 20 here is going to pair with some of his other defense penetration abilities. It's not going to be as much defense penetration, again, as, say, Winter Victoria could get. He does have a defense plus penetration plus 40 ability. I mean, so we're looking at like 65-70% defense pen, which is really good. But I think that having 50% defense penetration on top of, say, Lara Croft's pistols, giving him that additional 20% modifier is actually going to be better in the long run. You could make the argument that probably the best setup would be like the Valiant for defense penetration and then put the critical damage up, either Tidus's necklace or Shinra's bangle in the accessory slot. That's absolutely true. However, you also have to remember that we do have access to accessories that also give dexterity plus percentage up, and a lot of times that critical damage accessory or that, you know, Tidus's necklace accessory is going to be used on another unit because a lot of people don't have multiple versions of those, and so you're kind of, you know, lacking in that department on where you're going to put it. So you know, it's there's a whole thing here of you have to know, you know, do I need the defense penetration depending on my other gears? Do I, you know, go critical damage? Do I maybe use the diamond coat for, you know, acquired AP up? And I believe it's missile resistance penetration on there. Like, there is just so many things to consider and so many different gear sets. You really just have to know what is going to be the best way and best modifiers for your Prompto. And I think for a new player that can be a little bit overwhelming. TLDR, if you're a new player, just put a dang gun on them. Any gun +5 is going to be great for you. You'll figure out eventually how to optimize and build Prompto. But I think, you know, being that Prompto is a character given to everyone, he is a little bit dummy proof, I think, very similar to Tidus. And I think there's definitely a way to optimize him, but even if you don't optimize him, he is kind of that dummy proof character. Talking about his limit break, he does actually get a limit break animation, which is pretty cool. And it's interesting because Prompto, when we start talking about his main kit as well and his limit break, is almost like if you combine Dwayne and Venera, add range with status effects. It's really weird. His limit break is very similar to Venera's. It's 67% chance to inflict poison, 15 to 25x for 3 turns. It is 3 hit, has almost the same range, I actually think. It might be +1 more range than Venera's LB. 43 LB and a 200% modifier attack. So of course, you know, newer players, if you are wanting to put together a dark chaining team, Prompto is going to be fantastic for that. And there's other reasons when we do get to his main kit that are going to make him fantastic for that besides his limit break. Taking a look at his support abilities and some of his counter abilities. His support abilities, almost all of them are viable. You know, you have his primary ability, which will be missile attack 15 and agility 12%. You have long range, which will give range 1. You have snipe custom, which will give range 1 for self, increased acquired AP 40 for self. Right, I mean, again, if you compare that with Diamond Coat, going to be very powerful in terms of acquired AP up. Because he has access to Sub Assassin, you also have evasion up. Again, remember, his luck is reasonably high, and you're most likely going to be running him with the Maiden's VC if you can. So he will be able to be pretty evasive. You also get access to Sniper's Secret from Sub Sniper, which is missile attack 15 and luck plus 12%. And then you also get earn AP up level 1, increase acquired up AP 50 for self. So depending, like, again, all of these are viable. Right, like I can't reiterate enough that all of these are going to be viable to set on him. No doubt you're going to be setting the agility and the missile attack, and I think, you know, for the most part, if you don't want to run bells on him, you could actually run with an acquired AP up passive, especially considering Diamond Coat exists, and you could actually probably be fine in terms of AP. In terms of counter abilities, you have basically Reflex, which is like Crown's Guard Reflex. 15% chance to proc, 200% chance physical and magical evasion. You're gonna be setting this. You have Counter Smoke from Sniper Sub. You also have Dark Shadow from Assassin Sub. You're not going to be using these. You're going to be using Reflex. That's just like I hate to like. You can't compete with Reflex. I've said it over and over again. There is no competing with Reflex. It is the best counter in the game. It doesn't matter what you're doing, where you're from, you know, you're going to be using Reflex if it's available to you. It is literally the best counter in the game. So there is no question on that. You are just setting that on Prompto. Now, his primary kit has access to a ton of status ailments. Paralyzed, blind, he has his poison on his LB. He has access to slow. Like, that is a lot. And what's interesting is he also has in his kit a combination of Dwayne's capability to lower dark resistance and Venera's ability through Sub Assassin to lower defense. So he is going to be, especially again if you're a new player or if you're a player who doesn't have Dwayne, he's going to be that unit that can join your dark team, which will be able to lower dark resistance, which a lot of you running Dark Slash, if you don't have Dwayne, this is going to be really good for you to lower dark resistance. He's also going to have that capacity to lower defense, so keep that all in mind as we are going through this here. His primary attack is going to have a 25% chance to inflict paralyze. Again, you know, you might be turning this off. I could imagine wanting to use some of the other buffs here or other attacks for specific reasons. He has access to fast action, which is accuracy 30, agility 25%. I don't think you'll be setting this. You might. Yeah, it's going to depend on how his AI reacts. I think you're going to be wanting him to use the attack 40% for 3 turns for allies and range for 3 turns for allies buff around him. But I could also see maybe if you set fast action and then he goes into that, it could be really good. Darkness Bullet is going to be probably one of his bread and butter attacks just because it is blind, but it is also the attack that lowers dark resistance for 3 turns, so it's going to lower the dark resistance and it's going to be a 200% modifier attack, so it's going to be the highest damage attack that he could use. So he will kind of prioritize this to keep that in mind. Now, when he will not prioritize this is when he uses his ability Penetrating Shot. Now, Penetrating Shot gives 40 defense penetration and is 165% modifier, but it gets a 60% modifier if the target has poison, blind, paralyzed, slow, or if it has lower dark resistance on it. So this suddenly becomes the best ability if there's a debuff on your opponent. This is one of those abilities where, you know, you might be dealing a lot of damage. This is basically like a tank buster. And I don't know that we see a lot of these status ailments in play a lot of the times. I think when we do see them in play, we usually see like the dark resistance down. So I could see like Darkness Bullet going into Penetrating Shot. I could also see Penetrating Shot just because it would deal more damage to a tank with really high defense. But it's one of those things where he's probably going to alternate between the two of these. His final ability, Delay Buster, is going to be 165% modifier, decrease CT 15x for target, with a 25% chance to inflict slow for 3 turns to target. So pretty good. I would say we do see slow abilities land quite frequently. We see counter slow in particular because counter slow has a higher percentage chance to land. With all of Prompto's status ailments, you will probably want to maximize his faith. And overall, I would say, you know, he's going to be universally a good unit. He may not use his abilities optimally. He'll definitely be better in a manual situation where you can kind of pick and choose. But there's a lot of times, particularly in fights utilizing PvE content, where you need a unit on a dark composition that can slow in terms of like a chaining raid or a Trials of Reckoning, and you don't have access to it. So having Prompto with access to slow and dark resistance down is going to be very vital going forward, and I'm excited that he has these in his kit. Taking a look at his secondary kit here, he is going to have a manipulation tool, a position manipulation tool, which is going to be called Conductor or Attract. It's going to be 121% modifier, and it moves the targets by 1 square. You know, as we saw in the Fire Select quest, transposition is actually getting used in PvE content. I don't know that we will be using Attract in that way, especially when we have access to like Shadow Flare, but it's one of those things to hold on to and to keep in mind. He also has Star Shell, which will decrease an opponent's attack and magic 38% for 3 turns. Will also decrease their defense and spirit 20 for 3 turns as well. So again, that PvE capacity. Now it's important to note that defense minus 20 is not as much as the defense that he can lower if he is using his sub assassin ability. So if he is, you know, sub assassin, he will be able to do defense 30. Or if he's using the other ability, it'll be defense 50 for 1 turn. So it'll be good if you are maybe wanting to do ranged attacks, but it may not be as good in the long run for your entire party to use this ability. You'll kind of have to decide which one's going to be best. For survivability, the decrease to attack and magic with a defense and spirit break though would be really nice. His final attack is going to be 165x modifier, decreases AP 20 for target. So again, AP drain, pretty powerful. It's going to be, you know, probably not utilized. It may have a niche use. We're going to have to see if it kind of has a similar effect to AP drain in like select quests. I doubt it will, but something to keep in mind. Sub Sniper is going to have access to another defense penetration buff. So it's going to give range 1 for 3 turns and defense penetration 40 for 3 turns to self. There may be a situation where you want to use this, but it's kind of up in the air, I would say. Sub Sniper is also going to give you slow shot for decreased agility 20 for 3 turns on a target. It'll have basically disabling shot, target share, which will be 30% for 3 turns to allies, and Nether Beast. Again, you most likely won't be setting this except for niche PvE situations. It also has paralyzing trap, which you won't be using because his primary ability does paralyze. And then it has Dispel Spread, which dispels all buffs for the targets and dispels haste. So that is a pretty powerful, you know, Dispel Spread. I could see setting Sub Sniper for, especially if you're going in like a dark PvP or GVG battle. You'll probably have Sub Sniper set as your main. Otherwise, you are probably going to go sub Crown's Guard, or you will potentially go Sub Assassin if you are doing like a raid based PvE content. Sub Assassin, the big thing really that you're going to have is going to be, of course, AP robbery, and it's going to be the armor breaker, which is a defense 30 down, 210 modifier attack. pretty powerful overall. I would say I believe it's Marauder Blade. It's the single target one. It's not the AoE one that he also has, but that's the decrease 50 for 1 turn when attacking from behind. So that's going to be a very viable option if maybe you want him to do a dark slash chain with your other dark slash units. If maybe you're trying to build the chain and you're not trying to end the chain, that's kind of all things you can do to synergize and run your compositions together. Anyway, everybody, I hope this guide helped you out with Prompto. I hope you guys are enjoying him. I think he's a very fun unit. I think he'll be fun to mess around with. I think I definitely underestimated him back in the beginning. I think I was a little hard on Prompto when he was first released on the JP side. And now that I've kind of had a chance to see him in action and use him a little bit, I'm leaning a little bit more in that he's not just a Ryu 2.0. And for those of you that know my history with Ryu, the shooting Sir O in the back on my very first tower run was extremely painful. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you do want to support me, you can use my affiliate link, dig.gs/coins. If you guys do like these new type of edited character review videos, let me know down in the comment section down below. Again, I am trying to constantly improve right now on my videos, trying to add video editing and learn video editing, which is really difficult for me. So I would appreciate any feedback you guys have, and have a great rest of your day.